That was awesome. All right, thank you, Fitz. Hey, we got a video that we want to roll for you, and we want you guys to go ahead and grab a seat. We want you to, mothers, we want you to watch this video and see if this looks familiar, all right? Here we go. We're going to hit the lights, and we're rolling. Yeah, that's pretty funny, huh? So is it over or under? Or is that a wrong question to ask in church? Okay, anyways, happy Mother's Day. So, this is going to be, I'm really looking forward to this getting ready to happen in a minute. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, this is a kind of a standalone, a different way of doing church. If this is your first time here, we don't always sing the Commodores on Sunday. All right, but we are going to be super intentional about loving on mom and having a good morning. We're going to transition a little bit, and I wanted to read an article to you. James Dobson said that a mother's influence simply cannot be overstated. So the things that you do, Mom, and the role that you play, the words that you speak, cannot be underestimated, the significance that you have in the lives of your children and others as well. So I wanted to read this article to you, and I'll do my best to make it feel like I'm not just reading an article, but that's what I'm going to do, because it's really good stuff. So he says that many women feel that the job of mom is boring and monotonous. And they're right. But so is practically every other occupation. He says, once I stayed in a hotel, and he was next door to a famous cellist. Is that how you say it? One of these guys? Cellist? All right. I know how you say it was cello, but what is one called that plays the cello? Anyways, I could hear him through the walls, right? I'm trying to sleep. He said, all night long, I hear this guy through the walls as he practiced hour after hour after hour. He did not play beautiful symphonic renditions. He repeated scales over and over and over. As the cellist strolled on stage that evening, I'm sure many in the room thought, what a glamorous life. Some glamour. He spent the entire day in his hotel room alone playing scales. Few of us enjoy heart-thumping excitement each moment of our professional life. How thrilling is the work of the medical pathologist who examines bacterial cultures from morning until night? Or how about a dentist who spends his days drilling and filling other people's mouths? The job of a mom can be just about as boring as most others. Yet in terms of significance, no job can compete with a mother's task of shaping and molding a human being in the early part of life. Not every woman chooses to be a mother, but of course, those who do are worthy of admiration and respect. Children, we're told in Scripture, are a blessing. If so, then mothers are giving God's gift of love to them. And so mothers, we celebrate very much what you do. And sometimes, as we said earlier in the morning, there are times when you, as a mother, undoubtedly, I've been married to a mother now I've been married for 20 years, and we've had 15 years of kids. We've had our experiences. We've listened to other moms. We've listened to other people talk. Sometimes there's a tendency to feel like whatever it is I'm feeling is unique to me. Whatever it is I'm going through is unique to me. When your kids act like knuckleheads, which sometimes happens, can I get a witness? You think, is it me? Am I the only one, right? And so what we wanted to do this morning is we wanted to just breathe hope and encouragement and inspiration into you this morning. And we want to do that by bringing up our mothers. And first of all, I want to start by introducing to you a great mother in his own right, Greg Brannon. Come on up, Greg. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So Greg is going to walk us through the morning, and I just want to say, as a father, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Greg and for his wife, Colleen. They have amazing children. You've done well. And I think as a parent, if we do as you have done, when I'm as old as you, I'll be able to sit... I'll be able to sit back. It's good. I'm on a roll. We may hold the panel. Actually. Yeah. I feel like I will be able to sit back and feel like I'm a success. And so it's an honor to have you here on the stage and to interview our ladies. So, ladies, we want to bring you on up. So, Kathy and Jennifer, Lillian, and Sherry, if you ladies want to come up, give them a hand as they're on the way up.
The four women that you see here each have a unique story, but the great thing about being a mother, though it's a unique story, it's the identical story. They're moms, and that's a gift from God, and I think we'll hear that as we go through this. So the first thing I want to do, I think you all probably know most everyone up here, but we'll go ahead and make the introductions, and through that process you'll find out maybe why they are unique and their little piece of motherdom. Is that a word? It is now, okay? Let's start with Kathy Kiefer. Kathy, you have 3 children, 8 grandchildren. So let me put it this way. You're the most experienced mom on the stage. How about that? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been married for 38 years. It'll be 39 years this year. The wonderful man, Ken Kiefer. We have 3 children. Amen, amen. He keeps me in line a lot of the times. We have 3 grown children. All of them are married. We have a son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandkids that live here. We have a daughter and son-in-law and 4 grandkids in Clearwater, Florida that I just left this morning. So if I get a little teary-eyed, I'm still crying about it. And then we have Oh, I didn't realize the pictures were on the screen. That's Chris and Shantae, Jeremiah and Sierra. That's our oldest. That's the ones we just left in Florida. That's our daughter Karen and her husband Matt, Jakey, Ryan, and and Nathan and Evan. And then our son Kevin and his wife Katie, and our 2 grandkids Kyle and Caleb live in West Palm Beach.
Awesome. So the challenge of a grandmother is remembering the names of all your grandchildren, right?
Sometimes. Well, we got up at 4:45
Yeah.
this morning.
You've been on the move.
I get a pass.
Yeah. All right. Great to have you here, Kathy. Lillian Carnes. Lillian, you have 3 children. And let me categorize your relationship and your family this way: culturally, ethnically, blended. Is that accurate?
That's very true.
Tell us a little bit more.
I am Lillian Kans, and I am married to DJ, and I have 3 kids. Sorry, I had to think about that. We call them the Africans. You can see. I don't have the pressure of having as many as she does with all the grandkids. But yeah, those are my kids. I have Adrian, who is 13 years old. And as you can see, that brings the blended part of family. And then we have 2 together. That is Avery and Asha. Keep up with the A's. But so those are the Africans. And yeah.
Africans.
Love that. Thank you, Lillian. Sherry Peterson. Needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce you anyway.
Yeah.
6 children, and did she finally convince you maybe that God doesn't want you to have a boy?
We are all done. No boys. One day. I have Lexington, who's 15. And then I've got Reagan, who's 14. Was that Reagan? That was Dallas, yeah. I was going to say, I don't think that was Reagan. That's Dallas. She's 12. And Reagan is the one. Thank you. And she is 14. And then Ashton is in red. She is 10. Karis is 8. And Riley, and all the way to the end, the little dark-haired girl, is 7. And that is our 6 kids.
Awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, Jennifer Reed. Jen, you guys, you and Rob have 4 children, and very interesting story as well.
Yes. We do have 4 kids. We have 3 older kids that we adopted when they were 6, 10, and 11, and that's Dylan, who's at the back there, who's now 14, and then Dakota and Destiny, who are now 18 and 19, and then we have Jordan, who is 7, and she's right over here.
Awesome. All right, so let's dive into it. And I'm going to be asking questions from the dad perspective and maybe a little bit of insight from the mom perspective, we're going to be married 29 years, right, in June. No record, but no hobby either. So one thing I think that for all of you, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's this thing that I'll never understand as mothers because of what you do and what you've been called to do, mom guilt. Okay, and the heads start to go like this. Why? Why would a mother be guilty? And Jen, let me start with you, okay? That mom guilt thing, so much of the time it seems like moms feel guilty about something, whether if they've been criticized by somebody else or perceived criticism.
No, I agree. I think that mom guilt is a big, strong thing that we bring upon ourselves, but then we bring upon each other as well. I think all of us struggle with, are we doing the right thing by our kids? Whether it's going back to work full time or staying home. I think that's something we all struggle with internally, but then I think that we also struggle with it externally by shaming each other, which is something that as a panel we had talked about, like we want to encourage each other and other mothers to not do to each other. Because I work full time, that's the situation that I'm in, and sometimes I feel guilty about that. But then I have mothers who don't work full time that look down upon me as a mother who works full time. And how could you do that and you're not being a good mother? On the flip side, I see people doing the same thing, that work full time. Well, how can you just stay home with your kids? You're not teaching them to be an independent woman. So I think that that's a problem that we have kind of created within ourselves. Not only do we do it internally to ourselves, but we're doing it to each other. And I think that that's something that we all need to work better at, supporting each other and not adding to each other's mom guilt, if that makes sense.
And you guys feel free to jump in anytime, okay? They're going to get tired of listening to me. Kathy, you kind of chuckled, though, when Jen was talking about that. You chuckled a little bit when Jen was talking about being judged by others.
Well, yeah, I was thinking of I was a stay-at-home mom. Our kids are very close together, 15 months apart. So once I had the first one, I never thought about going back to work. So when you're a stay-at-home mom, you kind of feel inferior sometimes because you're not out there in the workforce and you're just surrounded by little children. And I went to a home party. I can't remember if it was like a shower or something. Anyway, when I got there, it was the people that were there all worked at IBM. And they all came from work, and they were all dressed in their IBM, a corporate attire. And I felt like this big. And then somebody said something about me being a stay-at-home mom. And one of the moms piped up and said, "Oh, I admire you so much." She said, you stay home, you get to stay home with your kids, you get to stay home, do your housework, you get to do your laundry. Sometimes my kids grow out of their clothes before I get to the bottom of the laundry basket. I'm like, yeah, my kids don't grow out of their clothes. It's hard to feel validated sometimes. Either way, whether you're, a work outside the home or whether you work inside the home with your kids.
I agree, and I think, it was cool that mom recognized that, and I know as moms, we got to be careful that we don't snoot up the nose like, oh, she's a stay-at-home mom, or, I kind of get, it's crazy, people don't know me, and they'll walk up and say, oh, do you homeschool all your kids? And they get that just because I've got a lot of kids, and I look at them and I'm like, no, they all go to school. But you just get that stereotype, and I think as moms, we need to be really careful not to project that on other moms, because it does make you feel kind of bad, that you are, I feel like we need to respect where mothers feel like they need to be at and support them in that area.
I agree with the ladies, but I think it's also important for us to recognize what does God want for me, and like bringing that perspective, because sometimes we may think that, like for me, in my case, I work. I never used to work, but I really wanted to go to work. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I wanted to do. It's not something that I had to do. And so when another mom doesn't recognize that, I want to do that. And it's because I feel like that's where God has for me. So I would expect the other mom to respect my calling as a nurse, because that's what I want to do. And there is also the effect of, I look at it as quality versus quantity. Like as a mom, I believe in having quality time versus quantity time. Well, quantity is also good, but I value more on the quality that you're spending your time with the kids. Because if you're blessed to have all the 12 hours with your kids, then really take advantage of making it a quality time for them, nourishing them, speaking truth, speaking Bible to them, and just leading them in the right perspective. And if you're blessed with just 3 days a week, then take advantage of that and make it a quality time of life versus, you don't want your kids to come home and be like, Mom is home now, But, sometimes my kids feel like that, but, because we all have that tendency of failing in some areas, but we are growing. The more you kind of nurture your kids, the more you are going to keep growing in every aspect, make mistakes and then move on.
So you guys have the dynamic of having to deal with the perceived outside criticism. How about the internal struggle? Each of you have your personal stories. Jen, you have adopted children, and Kathy, lots of grandchildren. Sherry, you have special needs, blended family. What is that internal battle that you go through as a mom when you do have some of those thoughts that I wish I could remove myself from this situation right now, and should I have ever done this, period? I mean, do you struggle with that at all, Sherry?
I don't struggle with the fact that I've had children. I absolutely love being a mom. I think, for me, sometimes I struggle with the balance of having a special needs daughter with 5 regular children. And part of that issue goes down with a lot of times in our home, there will be, because she is the oldest child, there will be almost like she gets away with everything. My other kids will. And so there's just this, sometimes I don't feel adequate enough to, I definitely have to rely on God, that's for sure. To know how to say something to my smaller children to help them understand that this special needs child is perfect in God's eyes, and don't speak like that to her, or she can't always get things as easy as my other children, So, there's that dynamic is tough, wanting them to help her, but yet at the same time not be mad at her, watching her. I think a big thing for me that I feel just awful about, and it just happened yesterday, is all of my kids will end up at friend's house. My daughter will say, "Where's my friends?" And that's a really tough thing for me. And she has friends, but they can't always go and run and do like her sisters can. So just walking through that whole process is a little tough, but yeah. Sorry, did not mean to go there that quick.
Look, that's life. That's every day. Jen, how about you?
I think, see, now I'm crying. This is your death.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So we struggle with similar. I think because we do have a blended family in a way that we have adopted children and we have biological children. Thank you, Dylan, for cleaning this. I've got something. I think that similar, you're dealing with a struggle every day, no matter whether you have special needs or, thank you, adopted kids, any kind of special need. All of our kids have special needs. Some are more specific than others, some are more in your face than others, but every child is different. Mm-hmm. And I think the internal struggle with the mom is making sure that you're doing the right thing per your child. Right. And sometimes the right thing for your child is not necessarily the right thing for the other children, maybe not the right thing for you, or the uncomfortable thing for you, and that is a struggle every day. You are going to have times where, to your point, do I just want to take myself out of this situation? I think that there are some parents who have an amazing experience and they get along really great with their children, and their children and them are super close. They have very little friction. I think then other people, nature is involved, and that is not the case. There is a law of attraction that we all have to deal with, and sometimes, whether your kids are adopted or it's a blended family or they're natural, sometimes laws of attraction are not in your favor. And there's going to be, if you've got more than one kid, there's going to be times where there's one kid that's a lot easier to love. There's one kid that's a lot easier to hang out with, a lot easier to like, and there's guilt in that,
Yes.
Just trying to understand, that you have to be able to just do your best all the time, and kind of work through that, and it's not always going to be perfect. I know that I'm sometimes jealous when I see the Brannons. I love the Brannons, but they get along really great with their kids. Now, their kids are in a different stage of life than my kids, but I don't get along great with a lot of my kids, or a lot of the time.
It wasn't
frankly.
always like that, I promise.
See, different stages of life. We're in the teenage years, and that is really, really hard. And so I think that we really judge ourselves, and we have to, again, be more accepting of ourselves and each other, knowing that everyone's going through something, whether it's an obvious disability or whether it's just an internal personal connection or disconnection from your children, that we're all going through that, and supporting each other, again, is super important.
I wanted to tell a story, and this goes off of the subject a little bit, but it kind of still stays with it, but I was in Harris Teeter, and there was a mom with a little one, and the little one was just throwing a fit. I mean, just full out tantrum. I mean, like wanting to fall out of the car. And the mom was exasperated. She's like, oh my gosh. And there was a lady behind her, because they were in line. There was a lady behind her, and she was looking at her with the most disgust. And it was awful. I mean, I was a little, we all have that. We all have those moments where like, oh my gosh, take care of your kid. But for a second, we got to stop and think. We have no clue what that mother went through that morning. She could have been, her husband could have been just in a car accident. She could have got out of the hospital. We have no idea. And she was at her last straw. And the lady behind her had no time for her. No time at all. And I watched, so I was way back in the line because it was one of those like 4 o'clock times where it's, rush hour where everybody's trying to grab their chicken to go home for dinner, like that kind of time. And the lady next to her walked up to this lady. It was so amazing. And she said, I just want to encourage you. You got this. And I watched that mom go, it was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, like, from a mom's perspective, like, we have no idea what the day is bringing mothers. Let's band together and say, you got this. Whether it's
Amen.
any stage of life that you're at. You got teens that are going crazy. Mom, you got this. You can get through this. Grab another lady and walk together with us. Like, don't do this alone, Special needs mama. Grab another mama and walk through this, because I think when we can understand and look at people with love and realize, this might not be a perfect day for them, and their kid's going to throw a fit. If we can just accept and be loving and say, wrap an arm and say, there's a better day coming.
Lest
it's okay,
we forget that we've all been there
Right.
and done that, and our children have been that way in public, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's a restaurant. You tend to forget church. You just tend to forget that your children have done that, especially when they get older.
I want to speak to to the blended families, the guilt involved in that. Like I think the divorce rate nowadays in America is like 50% or something. And so most of us have blended families. And one thing that I remember when, I can't see Adrian. Are you here? I don't think he is. But anyway, one thing I remember when I was starting to date, it's looking for that perfect man for my son, And most moms, after the fact that it has happened, and you bring this person into your life and you question yourself, is this the right man? Is this the right man for my daughter? Is this, And then you have, let's say, that the man also came with kids. Then you're trying to play that guilt card of yourself. Am I nurturing this other mom's kids the way she wants me to do it? And then you're going through this wild kind of emotions and trying to figure out, how do I stand, So I think for me, for those who haven't gotten there yet, those who are still kind of boom, baby came. and and then you have to go through that route. I really want to encourage you, sit back and just pray for that person, because I remember just asking God, please, God, don't make me make that mistake of bringing the wrong person for my kid. And it was a huge, huge prayer. And I really thank God for my husband. And for those guys who are there and you have to meet this mom who has 3 kids or 1 kid, or has gone through that route of having a kid and it never happened, I would like you to applaud you. I would like to applaud you, one, for choosing, because that's a choice that those men make to watch, to be a father to those kids, and also to encourage her, because she's going through a lot, just trying to maneuver through the whole, trying to blend this new family. I'm sure, I don't know, Jennifer has gone through that, but in this case, it's with her adopted kids, trying to bring that cohesiveness in the family. And as mom, we have that duty to make sure that we bring that cohesiveness. And it's a tough thing, you know. So, but every now and then, thank God, when everybody is laughing, you know, and they're not crumbling with each other.
Well, just kind of a funny thing along that, my dad brought this up once when we first adopted the kids, and things were pretty rough at the time, and he had encouraged us almost in a silly way when he said, you know, you have to understand it's going to take time, because naturally in the wild, animals eat cubs that don't belong to them. That's what happens. So if you know, that is nature, and you're trying to keep them alive. So it's sometimes we have to forgive ourselves that it isn't natural. A blended family isn't a natural experience, and however you decide to blend it, it's not natural, and we do have to support each other and try to work through that process, and it's a continual process all the time. But I have friends also who have biological children that have some of those same struggles. So again, I think that laws of attraction and laws of nature do come into play outside of what we can normally handle.
And on that topic, let's talk forgiveness. Is that something you guys struggle with? We're hearing, you know, the guilt. You question yourself. Am I doing this right? Can I do that right? Have I made the right decisions? Is it easy to forgive and forget? And how do you learn to do that? I mean, to truly seek forgiveness and know that you can just leave it at the foot of the cross and go on. Nobody wants to jump on that one, huh? Go ahead, Ellen.
I'll say practice.
Maturity, yeah, it helps to you know, have a little bit of that behind you and realize at the time it just seems so horrible, but as you look back, it's like that was a little small bump in the road.
Yeah.
How important, though, to learn to be able to do that for a mom?
Oh, it's very important, and my childhood, my mother was an alcoholic. My childhood was not good. I did not have somebody showing me the way. I did not grow up in a Christian home. My husband and I can grow up in a Christian home, but I got born again when our children were babies. And we got involved with a great church. If it wasn't for other women feeding into my life, I would really have been clueless. And there's still times today, my kids are 38, 36, and 35. There's still times today when some of those voices come in my head and some of the things that they spoke to me still carry me. So, yeah, it's a growing process, it really is.
I think it's also like being a good model, because if I carry on that act of guilt and I don't forgive myself, then my kid does something, like breaks something, like my favorite glass of wine, and oops, that came out. It's in chat. You know, it's really hard to like tell them, like when they're really sad. Like I've seen Adrian just stand and he's like, okay, my goodness, is mom gonna forgive me about this? So how is he gonna move on knowing that he's forgiven if you're not believing in God forgive you? You know, it's also a huge, it kind of takes away that range of just being mad all the time. So for me, I think there is a lot of richness in knowing that you're forgiven, because then you can express that to others. You know, you can preach it on, you know, and people can genuinely feel when you've genuinely forgiven them, you know.
Listen, moms are human and we make mistakes, every one of us. And I think that we have to ask for forgiveness and forgive ourselves. I mean, there are times where you've done something and I've done something that we're just like, what just happened? And, you know, whether it was out of anger or whether you were frustrated or whether you were, every mother, we're all human, has done something where we stepped back and went, ugh. And we have to ask for forgiveness. And to be a good mom, we have to forgive ourselves. I mean, it's just like Lillian said, if you don't forgive yourself, this bitterness starts to root up within you, and you just become this different person. But in forgiveness, there is just peace. And I will just suggest this as well. Like, I have a really close friend that I will just call, and she, God bless her, knows everything. You know, she just knows when I just did something crazy. And she'll say, hey, you know what? You got this. You know, she just encourages me. You know, you've asked for forgiveness. You have, you know, she walks with me through that and helps me to know I'm going to be okay. I'm going to pick up where I left off. God's forgiven me, my child. Listen, moms, I mean, you can forgive yourself, but if you did something to your child, it does not hurt to go back and say, I am really sorry I was out of line. Even small children, because they get it, you know. Little kids, 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, they get it when you say, man, mommy is really sorry. She just messed up. So yeah, if you don't have that friend, man, I really encourage you to grab one friend that is really close that you can call and say, man, I just messed up.
A friend and also a mentor, you know, that's, I can't emphasize enough on that. I'm really privileged today to have my mom. It's my first time like Feds going without my grandma, but just to see other people, like learn from them, like, you know, I'm watching Jennifer, she maneuvers the teenage and the young people. It's good to go to somebody and say, you know what, I really want you to be my mentor. Once you give them that support, they will also thrive themselves to be able to say, you know what, I gotta do this better for me and for Lillian. And then during those times that you're just down and you can call them and tell them, hey, how do I go through this, you know? And it's rich, people. Get a mentor. There is no manual out there on how to be a mom, I mean, other than the Bible gives us, but sometimes it's good. God uses somebody. Like, you know, I don't want to say gone are the days when we are going to see a burning bush, because that can happen. Yeah. But he uses people to be the mouth, the hands, you know, and so choose somebody, choose wisely who you're going to put in that place to be your mentor in life with figuring out this thing.
Amen. And when my kids were little, I had the good friend. I had the mentors in church. But my 3 favorite words were, God help me. Yes. Yes. Time and time again. Yes.
You're all speaking to what I was going to ask you about, just being isolated. Is it a danger as a mom when you get into the day in, day out, dealing with the kids and getting them from point A to point B, if you don't have someone to reach out to? How dangerous can that isolation be? Because I think there, you know, and you correct me if I'm wrong, there are women who just feel completely isolated. I've got no help, it's just me, my husband doesn't understand, or he's not even in the picture. How difficult and how dangerous is that?
I think that can be very dangerous. I have been very lucky that I have my mom in town. I have good friends that we have met through various groups that I can call and they can, you know, I can vent to them and oh my gosh, this is what's happening, and they can, to your point, say you got this, or you know, I've been there, that kind of thing. And I think without that, it can get very dangerous because it can get dark because you don't feel like you can forgive yourself, or maybe you don't feel like you're being a good parent, or maybe you don't feel like you're going to come out on the other end with a positive outcome, which is the goal of parenting, right? You want to have a positive outcome for your child, you want to have a positive outcome for your family. So I think that is crucial, and that's why people do need to network. That's why people need to get out there and look for it, and I think people are afraid to do that. So people that are isolated are afraid because of the judgment, are afraid that nobody's going to understand what they're going through. I think I told these ladies at one point, but I had a friend text me one day, and she said, I hate my son. I love him, but I hate him. Yeah. And just that little text, even though she was reaching out to me for help, I was like, oh my God, I feel the same way. I don't know what she's saying. And it wasn't about my son, so don't feel bad, Dylan. But there have been days where there are days that you feel, although some days, but there are days where some parents are going to feel that. Why am I even a parent? This is not reciprocal. There's no positive going back and forth. I feel like I'm giving. Nothing's happening. Nothing's changing. And so I think if you don't have that person to shoot a text to or to call on the phone, it can get very scary. But because those feelings are raw, because those feelings are not the perfect mom experience, and I think, Kathy, you even mentioned the one time that you said, well, I've never felt like that. Well, that's great. That's amazing. But most, I'm not going to say most, a lot of people do feel like that, and they're afraid that someone's going to say to them, I have no idea what you're talking about. My kids are perfect. I've never felt like it was a mistake to be a mom. Well, sometimes that's a reason they stay isolated, because they're afraid that everyone is going to feel, if you watch TV, being a mom is easy and it's perfect and it's wonderful and everybody loves each other all the time. So when you're having those moments that are dark, and you're isolated, you're afraid to reach out to somebody because you're afraid that there's going to be judgment because you are having those feelings. And so I think that it's just more and more of a reason for us just to acknowledge that with each other and open those doors so that people are less isolated, because I think it's hard to break out of that shell. No one wants to be the only one struggling. No one wants to be the only one who's having dark feelings about being a mom, or scared feelings, or negative feelings. So I think the more we can talk about it in forums like this and encourage other people to be real. Facebook isn't real. Yes. Instagram isn't real.
Amen.
I mean, you look on there and these people are like, look at my amazing kids in Disneyland. You know, half that trip in Disneyland was shut up, stop, don't touch, don't hit, don't kick. You know that's what happened, right? But that's not what's on Facebook. They didn't put that out there. So I think that people get caught up on, look how perfect that family is. What is wrong with our family? We need to talk about the fact that every family has some craziness going on in some way, shape, or form. Yes. And just acknowledge that and be more open to help each other out.
I want to say, unlike, in 2013, I got in a car accident. So this car accident, somebody just decided to do something wrong. Anyway, I found myself for the first time having to sit down and watch my kids do things for me. I saw myself having to, unfortunately, couldn't even get to the bathroom on time. So it was that bad. And you know what I did? I chose to exclude myself. I did that for like a whole month. And my husband and kids were doing things, and I couldn't go because I hated walking with a walker. I hated being pushed to the wheelchair. Thank God I'm standing here. But I hated those things. I didn't want people to see that I can't do things for myself. And it was really hard to like sit back and watch. At the time, Asha was 2013 now. She's, I guess, I don't know how old she was, 2 years. Math is hard. But she was around 2 years, and it was really hard. But when I realized, and to make it worse, we lived in Seattle. So it's like gray all the time. Imagine the depression. It's the first time I actually knew what depression is, and it was hard. And what I found worst is the fact that I could not pray. Like, I love praying. I know that that's how I talk to God. But it was so heavy that allowing myself to even be vulnerable to God was really hard. And so that is one setback of alienating yourself. Don't do that. Because it's going to be so heavy that when you just want to surrender to God, you end up just sitting there and just staring at the wall like this. And your prayers, you feel like your prayers are not going anywhere. So it's important to allow other people also to bless you, because that's the other thing. When I finally spoke up to my girlfriends, they were like, "Why didn't you tell us?" And this whole Kenyan community and the American community, they were like, "What in the world are you doing? You're refusing us to bless your family." And I felt so bad that I had to apologize to them, because that's their way of reaching out to me and saying, Lillian, I'm going to come and clean up. One day, DJ comes out of work, and he finds a woman cleaning up the house, and he's like, what happened here? But it is so, like, after that, we had food. He didn't have to get off from work and come and make food, you know, and it's important, you know, it's important. And women, reach out to the other woman. If you realize that she's not showing up, just call her and ask her, what's up with you? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I would say pursue, absolutely. Pursue
and ask them, when they say, how are you? I'm doing good. Go back and say, how are you really doing? Yeah. You know, because people have this tendency of saying, I'm doing good. You know, smile and lie. Well, it's called white lie. But reality is we don't want to speak up our problems. Even husbands, reach out and say to your wife, how was your day? How was really your day? And she's going to pour out and say, yeah, I almost killed that one. You're glad that she's
I have a really funny story that I want to share, because a friendship it really is a big deal. You have to get a friend and go with them. To laugh, even if you go and get a drink, you know, go get a coffee, and just, even if you're at a bad spot. I had a day, we had lived in Georgia for a year, and Paul had went to work. We were getting ready to do our church planning internship for a year, and I had three kids, and I had a small baby. We had moved, the baby was 8 weeks old. And so Dallas would have been about 2, maybe 2. And Ashton was 8 weeks old. But I had taken Lexington to preschool, or Paul had taken her. He had left for work, and I had 3 at home. I had Reagan. Dallas was like 2, and then the baby was like 8 weeks, 2 months, something like that. And I was around the house cleaning up like you do in the morning when you're a mom, you know, and it was a great morning. I was excited, you know. It was gorgeous in Georgia because we had moved from New York to Georgia. So, man, I was in heaven. I was like, woohoo, you know, because that area in New York is dark at that time of year. So anyway, well, lo and behold, so the house was quiet. And I was like, what is, you know, didn't think about it for a while. But then I was like, I have 2 mobile children and the house is really quiet. And so I had peeked around the back into the bedroom where the 2 were supposed to be playing. And Reagan was playing really great over with her Barbies, playing Barbies. And Dallas, oh my goodness. She had her diaper filled that I wasn't aware of with number 2. And number 2 was all the way from the toy box, smeared all over the carpet, all over the toys, throughout the room. And I looked over at her, there was it all over her face and her arms, down her legs, and I was going, oh my goodness. And then I proceeded to see that she
And it was still a great day.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, so I was okay. I was like, at first I went, baby was sleeping, Reagan's fine, so I can get this, right? Well, I didn't notice that she had also gotten into the Desitin, and that stuff is crazy to get, because it's like, you can't get rid of it. It's horrible. Had smeared it along with it, and I was like, oh, baby. I'm like, what are you doing? So, and this was, mind you, this was a house, because we were doing a church planning, that we were able to live in, so it wasn't even our house. It was on the carpet. I was like, oh, my goodness. So anyway, I started cleaning up. And I took her, and I thought, you know what? She's going to continue to walk and make a mess. So I was like, we got to get her first. So I'm like, let's get you to the bathroom. I told Reagan, continue playing Barbies and do not move. You know, you move, I'm going to really get upset. So anyway, got her cleaned up. And I was really frustrated. She was crying, and I was like, well, Mom, you know, Mommy's a little upset with you. And she had snot running down her nose, you know, like all into her mouth. And I was like, you gotta stop, you know, stop crying because you're making a bigger mess, you know, so I'm wiping her mouth. Well, then I had her sitting on the toilet. I was cleaning her all up. She decided, listen, I mean, I about had it, okay? She decides to take her hand because she was upset with me that I was upset with her, and jammed it down her throat and threw up all over the place. I was like, you know what? I had a bedroom full of mess. Now I have a bathroom full of mess. I am like so done. I called Paul. I was like, where are you? Because I am completely done being a mom today. But I called my girlfriend as well. And I was like, and that's why it's really important to have girlfriends. Because you need to be able to call them. And today we laugh. It's funny, but when I was in the heat of that, it was like a 2-hour ordeal to clean up. I had other 2 things planned for those 2 hours, Anyway. Get a girlfriend. They're fun.
You can still see how raw it is. It doesn't go away.
And meanwhile, Paul, no, hon, I got a meeting. We have time to keep. Okay. So just real quickly, I want to, before we wrap up, and this has been terrific stuff, I hope everyone understands, moms, you're all together. I think that's what we're hearing. Your identity, your personal identity. You're a woman, you're a mother, you're a wife. How do you maintain that identity through that whole process, from doing that to being able just to maintain the identity of who you are? How do you do that?
Well, first let me say, I just want to clarify when I said, just the way it made it sound, when you said, well, you said, I never had been through that, and I didn't. But I wasn't judgmental because I understood what you were going through. Just wanted to make that clear. Because our kids were, like I said, they were very close together. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was with them all the time. They were each other's best friends. I mean, it was a great situation for me. And as they started into preschool, and kindergarten, what have you, I had other moms asking me to babysit. So I was doing daycare in my home. So I was still surrounded by small children. And we knew, my husband and I knew how important it was. Even though I love being a mom, I love being a grandmom. I mean, I'm everybody's mom, I'm everybody's grandma. And but we knew how important it was for he and I to keep our identity as husband and wife. Yes, we're mom and dad, but we're husband and wife. And we always made time to go for ourselves. We were blessed that I had a brother and sister-in-law, and they had 2 children about the same age as ours. So for about a year, and don't be jealous, but we would do an overnighter babysitter every other weekend. We would keep theirs one weekend, they would keep ours, and that was great. But we always still made time to get away, like once a month, once every couple months, just to get away for a weekend, just to maintain that adulthood and keeping in contact with one another about everything, because every day we go our separate ways. We get in our own cars, we go this way, we go that way, we have our own jobs, we have our own coworkers, we have our own worlds. And if we don't keep that going, we are not going to be well for the entire family.
Anybody else? Good.
Well, I don't think that you ever separate your identity from being a mom. I think whether you are a stay-at-home mom, whether you're a working mom, whether your kids are adults or children, I think you're always a mom. But I think that your identity isn't necessarily just that, and understanding that. I think for me, my identity is more that I am a teacher. Like, I try to look at, like, where did God give me my skill set? And that's my identity. And I think I'm a teacher first, if that makes sense, or my kids would probably say a manager. But I tend to feel like that's where my skill set is. And so that's the skill set that I rely on, whether I'm being a mom, whether I'm actually teaching. Like, we have a theater company. I feel like I'm teaching constantly there. At my job, I'm in a sales role, but I feel like my job in that sales role is to teach people about their options, to teach people about, what we have, because that's what I'm good at. That's my identity, I feel like, is being able to teach and communicate. So I feel like if you can find your identity in the skill set that God gave you, and then apply that into the various roles that you play. Because we all play lots of roles, whether it's daughter or mother or teacher or, accountant, whatever it is that you do, there's a skill set that you bring to that was God-given. And I think that focusing your identity on that skill set more than the title that you're holding is the sort of the best way to navigate through that, and try to apply that in everything that you do, if that makes sense.
I think also when the kids know what's mom's role, like what does mom think of herself, it's kind of important because then they will respect that. And I look at it like sometimes, like when I go to work, like my daughter, they will all come and give me kisses because they respect that I want to go to work. And I explain to them, I say, nursing is my calling, and this is what I want to do. And they will come and they will give me kisses. Now, like yesterday, we went to a restaurant, and one of them got sick. And it was important for her. We were sitting close to each other, but she went straight to mommy because she knows she can get that. You know, daddy's gonna be like, yeah, good, feel better, you know, kind of thing. But it was good for her to know. The other thing is date night.
Yes.
I expect my kids to know that mommy's gonna all be done up for daddy, because that time is for me. I want to take my identity as daddy's wife. You know, that is when I want to take my time. And I tell you, they really do appreciate mommy getting her date night. And they know it's not for daddy, it's more for mommy. Because if I am good, everybody else will be good.
Amen to that.
And so it's really important for them to know. And they will even ask, when are you taking mommy for a date night? You know. It's true. Now, we lived in Seattle again, and everybody else lived in this warm kind of state. And we didn't have, as friends, we didn't have grandparents like we do now, you know. And one of the things I'm going to tell you, for all the moms out there who are wondering, how do I get somebody to watch my kids? Teenagers. Teenagers want that cash money, you know. So look for them. And also, don't say, I cannot afford to do it, because I guarantee you, you can fail to buy yourself them shoes and get yourself a date night. Yes. Or you can fail to get yourself that nice dress and tell your husband, this is an investment for our marriage. Because at the end of the day, marriage is what is going to make those families good. And you've chosen that man to be there with you. And the kids will enjoy it. And so when you take those date nights, don't say we don't have time. You do have time. We all have 24 hours, and you can take a good date night. He's a witness. Sometimes we've gone, and it doesn't have to be a $50 steak. We've gone somewhere, got ourselves a sandwich, and my favorite part is go sit down and, yeah, I'm not like modest sometimes, but I will sit back and put my feet up and just watch people with a sandwich, and that's the best date night versus a $20 steak, you know. So there is so many ways you can get back your identity by trying to let your kids respect that, and everybody else, you tell them that my time with my husband, so I get done up and out I go, you know. So grab it, you know, own it.
Yes.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Lillian, Sherry, Kathy, Jen, thank you guys so much.
That was good. Thank you, ladies. That was actually tremendous. A couple takeaways. Be honest. And your honesty might set some other people free as well. You're not the only one going through what you're going through. And encourage one another, particularly ladies, moms. Perhaps the best gift you can give to another mom is the gift of encouragement. Forgive yourself. And I heard this theme over and over and over. Get a friend, get a mentor. Do not do this thing alone. So in that vein, let me encourage you as you're headed out to connect with the ladies who have businesses or whatever it is out there. Please just stop and check that out quickly. I wanted to say that was the introduction to my sermon. So if you'll turn to... I'm kidding. But I did want to just leave you with this. Favorite verse in the Bible, God is talking to a young man named Joshua. Joshua's getting ready to go into this brand new land filled with all kinds of adventure and wonder and good opportunities, but it was also filled with all kinds of unknown things. And God's word to him was, as he was preparing to lead into this place of the unknown, he said, "This is my command to you, Joshua, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I think as you are doing the parenting thing, hey, dads face this too, by the way. We have this joke at our house. Just about the time we figure out how to be a great parent, they have a birthday. And everything changes, right? And I'm telling you, parenting a 14-year-old is a heck of a lot different than parenting a 7-year-old. Completely different. It is really moving into the land of the unknown. There are giants there. There are ogres there. There are monsters there. You might get hurt there, right? But God's word to you is do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Amen? God, thank you for these amazing ladies and for this stunning moderator. Thank you. What a great morning.